What happens when the student and the teacher turn to AI, but not each other?
Hi, I'm Casey Wacker. I'm a teacher in rural Minnesota, and I get to work with students in 9th through 12th grade. Some of my older students are also concurrent enrollment, so they're also college students. And I am here with
Sandra Weiser Matthews. And though I've taught in a rural area for many years with high school students, I'm now teaching in an urban area with learners getting their master's in teaching. And it's really exciting to see them get ready to work with whether it's elementary or high school or middle school. And we are here because we get to talk about one of our passions, and that is, well, obviously education, but it's also AI. And it is the hot topic we want to talk about today and most days. And we have a couple of tools today that we want to mention, but we really want to talk too about what goes on around them as well. For example, we have talked about how important it is that we make sure we communicate with our learners and have a real serious conversation using AI. And it's becoming more and more obvious that we still need those conversations. And I'm not just sure how we approach it correctly so that it gets into the learner's, mindset as well. So one of the tools is a tool that is called Grades AI, and that's for the learner to try to get into the head of the teacher to try to figure out how am I going to pass this test better, or what kind of questions will be on the test. Just every possible idea that could be on the exam so that you can study for it. All right. And that, why not? I mean, we as educators we're going to talk about a tool called Sorcerer in just a moment, where the teachers are using AI to come up with good questions, well-crafted questions for tests to help save time, but also to be more critical in their own development of their tests and their questions or whatever they might be doing. And I know, Casey, you've had some practice with that. So do you want to talk about Sorcerer a little bit? But we're just talking here today, like what happens when we're not talking with each other, when the learner's not talking to the teacher and vice versa. We are all learning together, especially when it comes to AI. And somehow we need to figure that conversation out. So what's your experience? What happened?
Well, okay, so first of all, I would say my usage of those two tools is a little bit different than maybe the way that they're meant to be used. I'm not really sure, but I tested them out with a few different groups of students and got a little bit of feedback from them. And Grades AI is really like comprehensive. It's got a lot to it. And I think that I need more time, and students would need more time. They need more direction from me to be like, this is how you use it. We just sort of played in that world to see what we could come up with. And it was a lot. There are a lot of things to click on, and you're not really sure where to look at the screen and how to use it. So that one I need some more time with to really know.
Isn't it interesting though, when you describe it, it's certainly marketed for a very fast-paced. I mean, we don't see AI tools for teachers come out with all this flashing and this moving stuff, and it's really targeted, you can tell, for much younger people. But again, even that your students were like, that's not,
yeah, and I think a lot of it was just sort of wondering, what's my goal with using this? It says it's going to make studying easier. It's going to make, and I think when we have a point in class, so I tested out with college and career readiness students who are preparing for an ACT, because I thought, why not have them use the ACT as the exam? Like, that would be the thing. And we just couldn't quite figure out how to use the system to make it more personalized for them. And so again, I think just time. And once we figure it out, I know it's going to be easier. I know that that's with any AI product, right? Like you just got to get used to it. But we also tried Sorcerer, and I did this with my college English class. And what we're working on right now is integrating sources. And so I didn't use it for me, actually. I showed the students, and I made it a resource for them to improve their understanding of just a simple topic, integrating sources. So basically the way that this works, and maybe you'll show us, Sandra, as I'm going through this, but you kind of set up your parameters as a teacher. Who are your learners, high school, graduate, undergraduate, or elementary? And then you give it topics, like kind of overarching areas for it to focus on. And you can build in some memes that could pop up during the experience, or just some graphics or images or whatever. I kept it really simple. I didn't do any of those graphics, and I just put in the topic. I shared the link, and then I said, all you do is you start with that topic, you type it in, and then the system, Sorcerer, will go, okay, let's start with something foundational. Let's see where you're at. Answer this question. You answer the question to the best of your ability, student will answer it, and then it gives you like a percentage of where you're at based on a 100%, assuming that mastery is 100%. And so I just kind of gave it an answer where I knew I wasn't really fully answering it, just to test it out. And it said I was at 30%. It's like, okay, here you go. You've mastered, 30%. You gave me a definition, but you didn't give me examples of A, B, and C. And so now try again. So you do that again, and then it comes back with okay, now can you provide a little bit more depth? You're at 50%, and it pushes you to really show that you know something. But all I did as a teacher was plug in a topic. So one concern that I have with it is like, is it going to give them the right focus? Is it, and I think if I gave it more specific parameters and whatever, I could trust it. But I'm a little bit nervous about students just going out there and using the AI, because sometimes there can be inaccuracies, right? Or maybe it doesn't present the information the same way that I do. And what if that confuses them? But I think it's a great place for students to go, and the system matches where they're at. Like, that's a hard thing for us to scaffold in our classrooms, to know, really, everybody can answer this one test question, but does that really show that they understand what we're doing?
And that really is so you're really talking about the personalization of whatever it is. So whether it is them trying to discover maybe maybe a career path, or whether they're trying to understand sources better or a topic better, but it's all very personalized. But again, it's like that trust that, where will it take them? But lots of good information. And again, that control a little bit.
Well, and it's assuming that, where does this information come from? If I'm not giving the inputs, which is what we're used to in our classrooms, is it's like, here's an article that I want you to read, or this section of the textbook that I trust and know has this information. This is what's going to be on the test. This is, whatever. Now this is sort of like, here's a topic area. So I brought it up to our social studies department, and I said, you could put in, something related to a part of history that you want students, and ideally it should be sending them on the right path to understand this concept, because that should be undeniable, right? But it depends on whose history you're reading. So
exactly. So then again, it goes back to, sure, go out and discover this information, but it does come back to a conversation, a discussion, some critical thinking going on in order to see where they landed with that information, what they might do with that information, and whose story it is, and what are the biases that are built in. So that's one way of looking and thinking about it. But you also are discovering too that when your learners are turning in work, it's not always this is nothing new.
No, right. Yeah.
Getting a time that learners don't always turn in the greatest work, and then we work with them again, give them feedback and direct them where they need to go. but what are you seeing right now? And
So-
does that make you feel like, what's the next step, or is there more of a conversation needed?
Yeah, I feel like I'm very open with students about using AI, and we've had some conversations about, ethical use of it. Yet here I have some essays that to me as a reader, and also I've been working with these students, I've seen them and witnessed their writing over the years, but also just this year, I have the opportunity to see them in different types of writing classes, and so I've seen their work. And when I'm reading an essay and all of a sudden there is a phenomenal shift in tone, this student usually presents things in a pretty informal, I hear them saying it as I'm reading it. And now all of a sudden, wow, that syntax is beautiful. Very academic, and that vocabulary, I wouldn't have thought that this person could, incorporate that, because it's so starkly different. And in fact, it's in the same essay. You start like this and then you end like that. So it looks like maybe halfway through they got lost and they were figuring out, like, what am I going to say? How do I say this? So they're writing about short stories.
Resources needed some assistance.
Yep. Exactly. And then I thought, well, this is a moment for us all to learn. And of course, today I said to them, I don't like reading computer work. You know that. I like reading your work. And I love your voice. I love when I can read a paragraph and go, that's Johnny, right? I know who you are. But it's not fulfilling when I know that your writing is done by someone else or something else, and it loses personality. It's like, sure, is it accurate? Does it check these boxes? Is it like insightful even? Like, wow, that's an interesting idea. I've never heard you say anything like that in class before. That's so cool. Like that's fine, but that's not what we're doing here. So we always have to come back to, like, why are we learning to write? What's the value of that? Like, again, it's not a product. Mm-hmm. So if you got caught halfway through.
And the other thing too is, let's just say they did that. Mm-hmm. And now talking about it, what did they learn about what their writing is and is not? And do they want to aspire to do better or just get by? Again, there's just so many layers to that conversation. So AI needs to have both the teacher, the learner, working together in conversation, and remembering that we all are learners and we need AI as an assistance for time and expertise and pushing us and giving us some time to be, more creative. But we do need each other.
Right. We do.
Thank you.
Thank you.